So, as always, we're going to give a minute for people to show up. It comes when it comes, it happens when it happens. There's no real way for me to predict when I get the nudge to go on air and talk about something. So, today we're not doing a Hello Neighbor. Not to say that we won't ever be doing Hello Neighbors, because I've been hearing back from some of you, and it's really been very, very moving to see how many people the Hello Neighbor series has touched. But there are some times and spaces where we need that community space, and there are some times and spaces where we need to talk about something that a less emotional approach would be better served in that context. So, today, what we're going to be talking about is the difference between astrology and spirituality, which is a little bit ironic because I'm someone who very much does both. And it becomes hard for people who have one idea of something to understand how that's possible and why that combination is not really that common. So, a lot of people conflate the two, but it's really not the same thing. And of course, the moment I actually start working, baby decides that she needs to jump up and do something. She's been peacefully sleeping, but she's like, it's go time. I got to do my thing. So, if we look at astrology, astrology is a very long history and it was used in very, very many ancient civilizations. There are different systems of astrology. There are some that use 12 signs, others that use 13. So there's the tropical system, the sidereal system, the heliocentric system. There are so many ways of understanding and navigating the stars. Ultimately, I'll never say that another system is wrong, but I'll say that each person works well with the system that best resonates with them. And as long as you have the ears to hear, you will find a grain of truth in anything. You just need to make sure that you're not uncritically taking anything in. For me, growing up in a system which used, well, obviously, given my cultural background, it used the Vedic system. From personal experience, I understood that did not work with me at all. It could not predict what I was doing. It did not understand who I was. And I found that I needed something else. So I ventured into a different direction. Not to say that system won't work for other people or that people shouldn't use it. It is to say that each has a different way of looking at the human psyche. And you have to look at whether that system is equipped to understand what a person needs at the time. But having said all of that, astrology is effectively a map. And a lot of people confuse the map for what it is that life and reality and experience is about. Instead of looking at the map as a map of what things could be, they look at it as the journey itself. And whilst astrology can be a very effective tool to have on the spiritual journey up to a point, when you become too bogged down by it, you actually stop being connected with spirit and you instead get connected with the energy of the astrological system that that you're using. And each energy of there is an energy behind each system, whether it's sidereal, whether it's tropical, whether it's Vedic, whether it's heliocentric. There is an energy behind each system that is used. Astrology is not a neutral art. And of course, very many occult systems have, of course, used astrology. Very many cults have used astrology. It's not a neutral ground at all, which is one of the reasons why when people send me their details expecting me to just have a look, for me, it's the equivalent of saying, you basically just sent me a nude picture and want me to comment on it, because astrology is intimate. A person who actually knows what they're doing with astrology can actually tell you things about yourself that you will only find after years of personal self work and meditation. It can tell you secrets about yourself, it can tell you secrets about even people who are close to you, which is why, for me, it has always been a very sacred thing to do. So I only ever look if there is a real need to look. And if I feel like an astrological approach will actually be bad for a particular spiritual seeker, I would say, you know what, this approach isn't right for you. I can either refund you and you can go do something else, or we can take this as a more of a direct spiritual facilitation. Most of the time, people say yes. But the way people think about astrology is that it's somehow a guide to you that, you have to follow, and it's set in stone and it doesn't move. And the truth is, the more you actually look into astrology, the more you realize there is movement. But the more advanced you get in terms of understanding yourself and living from a place of spirit and heart, the less astrology is actually able to predict for you unless the astrologer themselves has done the spiritual work that is required. That's why I have never found an astrologer that could predict me, because none of them had actually sat with the work. Which is why when I do look for guidance, I look for other sources. A person actually has to be able to differentiate their own insight, the insight that is coming through, to them from spirit, if they work in a mystical or a shamanistic manner, and the insight of the system, on the energy of the system itself, to actually do a proper reading. It's not just looking at a chart and telling you what's there, at least not when I do it. It is about looking at all of these factors and still looking at what does this soul actually need. And the reason why I'm talking about this is I noticed on my website, which is where I used to put, in addition to Facebook, it was where I had a lot of my writings. I used to write so much, and I used to give so much free information. And someone recently wrote to me saying, "Is this all behind a paywall? Do you even do this anymore?" And I said, "Well, yes, I do write about 20 to 40,000 words a month for the Tier 23 program. There's between 2 to 3 hours of information there every month. But there's a lot of information there in the Hello Neighbor series as well, and also whatever else I share online." But I knew that they were not satisfied because I wasn't giving them the tools that their mind wanted. I can't blame them, because astrology is something which can also be deeply addictive. It gives you this illusion of control, and it gives you this illusion of, how do I put it, this illusion of power. That is to say, if you understand this, you can therefore do this. And again, all of this is true up to a point. For a seeker who is starting in their journey, it can be a wonderful way to get some insight. But at a certain point, it is my fervent belief, and I have been saying this consistently almost ever since the time I started doing this work publicly. It has been my deepest belief that at some point we all need to let go of the crutches. So I don't know if you noticed, I did share a link on the community to an interview I did with my friend Tara Tyne, who's a channelist diary of a ditch witch. And she wanted me to do predictions for 2022. And I said, I don't really want to do that. So we had a really good interview. For most of it, we were talking about the experience of what it is to be on the spiritual path, to be on a mystical path. And we touched very lightly upon the astrology at the end. And honestly, I think that was a better conversation to have. Because at the end of the day, when we try to use astrology as a substitute for spirit, we are basically creating yet another construct, yet another box for the mind. And whether that box says, I'm a Gemini, I'm a Scorpio, I'm a Sagittarius, I'm a Leo, this is what I do. If that box is there, you've already limited yourself because you are not your sun sign. Think about it. If you believe in reincarnation, you have come to this plane so many times. Are you going to tell me that you were whatever sun sign all of the time? No, you're not. Which is why, again, as a form of divination, as a form of insight, it's something that tells you one part of the story. And that is why it is not the same as spirituality. Because spirituality is not something that comes from your mind. Sure, your mind can be a very important tool in helping you understand something, but at the end of the day, spirituality is an experience. And I don't think there can really be a disagreement on that because that's boiling it down. If someone tells me that spirituality is not an experience, I would be very curious to see what they would have to say. More of disbelief than anything else. But it's also about a subjective experience. And, I can have the same critique, and I do, about so many different things that people are getting drawn into in the name of understanding themselves, finding themselves. They keep finding labels and boxes to put themselves in. And I am very cautious of this. The more you actually create a tool or an interface to yourself, you are that much further from a direct connection and relationship with spirit. And Increasingly, the more you consider spirit as something that is out there, whether it's a god, a goddess, a tree spirit, an ET, whatever you want to look at, you're externalizing that relationship from where it actually needs to come back to, which is your heart. And, astrology has always been a way where I would say a lot of people have often tried to use a shortcut to get there, but it doesn't work. At the end of the day, what I do is I try to share with people what has helped me the most. Not because I think I'm the end all be all or whatever, but because from personal experience, I look at what works in a situation and what is the most useful. So even when I use this as a tool, I'm very careful to show people this is the limit of this. This is where this can be changed. This is why you don't need to take this as gospel. And I make sure that people know that there is an openness to the interpretation. Because Lord knows I have made terrible choices earlier on in my life, listening to predictions that sounded ironclad before I realized that was a lot of bunkum. So, that's one of the reasons why I didn't want to do a huge prediction for this year or huge overview for this year. There are certain key points which I will mention in due course, which I feel, okay, you need to have your eyes open here, here, and here. And to that extent, as a weather report, astrology is extraordinarily useful. But is it useful in knowing you? Up to a point. The more you identify with the concept, whether it is an asteroid, a planet, and the concept behind that body, the more you create your narrative in terms of the language, the less you are in tune with yourself. So, for example, when someone tells me, oh, well, I have a Pluto in this sign, and that means this, and that, I'm like, I can't help you because you have already decided what your experience is. So, in that sense, there is this middle space that I try to navigate as best I can in my work because I don't want to be a hypocrite. I do find that there is a tremendous utility in this field, but again, up to a point, with the understanding that it is not fixed or set in stone. And I have helped people in my way doing what I do through some tremendously difficult alignments and tremendously difficult natal charts. But not because of the astrology, but more because that person was comfortable enough to actually give themselves a chance to look at things from a different perspective. So at the end of the day, the way you know if astrology actually works for you is whether or not it makes you a decent person, whether or not it actually allows you to come deeper into yourself and your connection with spirit, and whether or not it boxes in your view of reality or gives you more openness and more perspective to see things in a different way. There are some people who come to me and go, I'm so interested in astrology, da 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 da. And you can see they have done an entire thesis on their chart, but they still have no clue who they are. And I basically go, this is not for you. Please go and do something completely different. Do something that is a lot more in tune with your body. Do something that is evocative of your creativity. And they listen to it. Sometimes they don't like hearing the message, but sometimes they're like, you know what, I think you're right. This hasn't actually given me real understanding. Maybe my mind thinks it knows something, but I'm not actually getting the benefit of the experience of that language. So, this is, and of course, I've been struggling to write a book just because I'm just like, yeah, but I don't want to indoctrinate people into these boxes and categories of thought, you know? And when I say something, I notice when I say something, I'd be very careful with what I say. People tend to take that on board very, very seriously. So, there's certain things like, for example, if you don't know anything about astrology and you're just trying to find some basic guidance for what do you do this year, just look at two things. What is Saturn doing? What is Jupiter doing? And as a general, very general sense of direction, that should give you an understanding of, oh, okay. So Saturn in Aquarius is about what technology, friends, it's about, working on your ideals, it's about getting together and doing things altruistically. Okay, Jupiter right now is about Pisces, that is more about connecting to your spirit, that is more about looking at past karmic lessons. And honestly, those are the only real principles principles that you need. Now, this is not coming from someone who doesn't know what else to say. In my work, I use at least 200 astrological bodies. So when I really look at a person's chart, I look at a person's chart, which goes, back several generations and several lifetimes. So it's not something that is coming from a place of not having seen the complexity of it. It is coming from a place of looking at that, looking at the fixed stars, looking at the constellations, and going, yeah, all of this is great. But if you really want to teach someone, just teach them the basics that will help them get through. Because there's so much of ego that is also associated with this field. I remember one client I had many years ago, what feels like many years ago, and he was a better astrologer than I am. I have no doubts about that, because when I say astrologer, I mean someone who has the specific skill set, the specific tool, the specific knowledge of techniques. And in that sense, he had a huge understanding of techniques, but he had no real wisdom. He had all of this knowledge, but no real understanding of what it meant for him as a human being. So I ask you, is that actually useful? This might just be the way I am, because as far as I know, this is usually the way I've been consistently several lifetimes in, is like, is this actually going to help somebody? So the only thing I would say is, and of course, I'll like put the highlights up. Stuff like Therios is really important to know. Stuff like Ceres is really important to know. Just a basic framework. And if you have that, and if you have the willingness to realize that this is just a guide, and it's not who you are, and it doesn't define you, and it doesn't define your destiny, as long as you can open your heart to spirit in a way that says, this is just the pencil, the story I write with spirit is my own, then it can be useful to you. Because there's just been so much of oppression that's been done in the name of astrology, especially in India when it comes to marriage. Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah, I've seen that firsthand, and I've seen that in so many people. Unless it's something that actually liberates your soul, don't do it. It doesn't matter if other people live by it, die by it, but it needs to be something that actually allows you to see a different possibility for yourself. That's when you know if it is something that is leading you to spirituality, or if it is something that is locking you in an egoic narrative. That is what I wanted to say today. So let me now acknowledge the people who are here and the comments. Hello, 305 Capricorn. Hello, Hathor. Hello, La Galarda. Hello, Auntie Sue. Hello, Cookie. Hello, Loza. Hello, Yessie. Hello, Samia. And hello, Sheena. Oh, okay. Who is getting a very new kitten? Excellent. Very happy. So, are there any questions with respect to what I have said thus far? I'm going to give you a minute. For those of you who have been following me for a while, you should know this is what I do. I'll be like, okay, let's learn this, and then let's go and go further in a different direction, or go further in a way that makes us let go of what you had. So, it's always a case of learning and deconstruction, learning and deconstruction. And through that process, you know what to keep and you know what not to keep. So what are there any questions with regards to what has been said thus far? And those of you just joining, please go back to the beginning, because we're having a more focused discussion today. Hello, Jackie. Hello, Adar. Hello, Ethereal. Is it ethereal or ethereal? I should look that up. Yes, he says, your timing is always perfect with messages. Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I promise I don't look at astrology myself when I do this stuff. It's like, do I feel it? Yeah? Okay, we go. But yeah, that's thank you, Yessie. Yessie is one of my favorite people. Always nice to see her there. So are there any questions so far? Because I can hear crickets here. Oh, because we've got, I think it's either crickets or cicadas, one of the two. They're like chirping in the background. So waiting to hear from you. Waiting to hear from you. I guess not. So maybe this is what needs to have come through at this time. Oh, Ethereal say the second and third sounds good to me, Dr. B. Sounds good. Chiron says morning, night. Chiron, go back to the beginning. You're going to like this one. Um, Sheena says literal crickets, lol. I was late, so no questions. Jane Lane says, I'm grateful for the intellectual and spiritual honesty you bring to the stats. Thank you very much. I mean, Jane is someone who has also journeyed a lot, and I noticed that in the comments she leads. So it's always very good when people who have also walked the road come to similar conclusions or can appreciate what is said. So I very much appreciate that. Thank you, Jane. Okay. Ithriel says, oh, you know what? I don't know how to say it. Cicadas. Oh, Chiron says, I'm going to Sedona, about to get in the airplane. Chiron, ground. Ground. Please ground. Make sure you are grounded. You know, there's a whole bunch of energy that comes through Sedona, so make sure you don't take on shit that's not yours. Oh, I am back. I am back. The internet sensed the lack of questions. But yeah, that's really what I wanted to say. That's really what I wanted to say. Chiron says, haha, that's why I told you. Be careful. Um, but let's see. Chiron says, assignment accepted. So, all right. But I would say that's probably what I wanted to say. Maybe you need some time to digest this, which is fine. Oh, here we go. Amma says, I agree. It's only useful if you can find a soul connection in a system. Exactly. And it's also useful to look at whether or not that connection is still in alignment with where you are, or if that is something that needs to be let go of. So even that you have to look at and see, is this really the road you need to take? Jackie says, I have a Cappy Moon, been dealing with toxic family members. Is it okay to keep saying no? My personal view, say no until it's safe to say yes. But I can't make that answer for you. I can only tell you what I do. And until I feel it's safe to say yes, I'm going to keep saying no. So, you got to also protect yourself. Grace says, good morning from Olone Lands. Hello, Grace. What is an Olone land? Please clarify. And you might want to go back to the beginning because we have a fairly focused discussion. Bad woman, go back to the beginning. All of you came 20 minutes later. We finished. Well, I'll do a quick recap. And for those of you who've got the message and are internalizing, feel free to log off and maybe present your questions or think about it, feel into it, and maybe bring it up during the next Hello Neighbor or something. Jackie says, thank you. Yes, it's not safe in the moment and protect my children. Thank you. Yeah, especially when you got kids. It kind of, in some sense, it makes things more complicated, but on the other sense, it also makes things crystal clear. When you got kids and it's not safe for your kids, it is clear what you got to do. But your feelings about it, I understand. Okay, but just as a recap, in this video, we've been talking about, I see. In this video, we've been talking about the difference between astrology and spirituality and why astrology is not spirituality. It can actually block you from spiritual paths and progress, irrespective of what system you take. So we talk about what's the right level of engagement and when to know if it's the path for you or not for you. And we have that kind of discussion. So back to the beginning for those of you who are just joining in. Puitamela says, hi, I'm late. I was talking to my mama. Grateful for the recap. You're most welcome. You're most welcome. Grace says, Ramyutash Olon Lands, currently known as the Bay Area. Okay. Cool. Hello, Grace. So another thing that we can talk about is, building from that same space that I'm hoping by showing by example, others can actually, when I say follow, I don't mean it in a hierarchical way, because honestly, I look at Instagram, I see people painting and it brings up my innate desires to paint. I follow that. So when I say follow, I don't mean in the, I am great shepherd, you are sheep, follow me up the mountain. I don't mean that. So, I'm hoping that the example that I set is something that can inspire people to make that very big leap. This was exactly the same reason I left academia, because I was supposed to go on a completely different life path. I was supposed to be doing something completely different. But then life happened, spirituality hit, and I took a completely different direction because I didn't feel that the boxes and, fine PhD, doctorate, whatever. One of my colleagues who was doing a PhD at the same time was saying it's permanent head damage. I'm like, yes, yes, it is. If you've ever done one, it takes you a year just to recover. So hopefully not that permanent, but it's like I looked at that and I made exactly the same choice. It was just these concepts did not match reality. It has, they don't actually help you do something in the real world. Whereas, honestly, stuff like Hello Neighbor actually does. I mean, I'm so moved when I hear from some of you. And it's been such a year of incredible and intense loneliness for so many people. And it's reached people, it's done something, it's given people some hope, something. And that's change, that's something that's tangible. Me talking about this esoteric asteroid with this thing doing this in your chart, sure, it might scratch an itch in your brain, but is it going to change your life? Not unless you actually do something with it. Ethereal says, I like how you put things across. There's so much I'd like to learn from you. I appreciate that. I honestly don't know what I can teach. I'm thinking about it, and I feel like the best thing that I can teach people to do is to just do it and know that people are going to figure it out. That's the best way I can teach. The more. Hi, sorry about that. My brother called, and the line instantly gets cut. He's outside. I guess I just also wanted to take the space because the brother was out, his rare moment of just aloneness, which is a good thing. Okay, here we go. Um, oh, 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 oh. What do we have? Michi says greetings. Thank you. Haripriya says hi. Blessings to all from Ireland. Hello, hello. I just did an interview with my Irish friend. Her channel is Diary of a Ditch Witch. Check it out. You might find kindred spirits there. Michi says greetings, Dr. Byrie. Greetings, everybody. Greetings, Michi. Zen Steel says hello, Dr. B. John Philip Stevenson says concept not matching reality. Well said. Thank you. Grace says, so grateful you didn't go into it. I've met up with some big sisters in academia, and while they write about Buddhism, religion's practice is weak. Agreed, agreed. I find the same thing happening when people are talking about, psychological concepts, self-healing, and all of that stuff. It's like people are saying an awful lot of words, but the energy of being and just sitting there and just being yourself is honestly the best thing that I teach. And I was talking about this with a dear friend of mine who is a psychologist, and she just said, well, people like being seen, and when you're around them, they they come through. And I don't know how to do that in writing, so I show up and I hope that what I'm saying reaches people. It's not something that's a word, it's not a concept. It's a kind of like a doing. It's a very embodied practice. Maybe in older times people would have gone master teacher, which is fine, but I'm just happy with Dr. Sweetie or Bhairavi or whatever. Yeah, Israel says, I've seen many people who practice astrology and are far from spiritual. Scam me, some others I respect. I understand. Grace says, hi to Michi. Jackie says, yes, you always appear when needed, and thank you for your guidance. Most welcome. Apparently, Bernie and Jackie, and oh, hello, Cape Town. It's interesting. It's interesting. I was actually speaking to a client from Cape Town yesterday. I'm being very called to go to Cape Town. I could see something happening there. And I was actually supposed to relocate to South Africa, but things did not happen because of my health. But I really do feel called to Cape Town, and it is no surprise that so many of you are from there at this time. Pretty sure I've been around there in my past life. When I went to South Africa, it was more so to Johannesburg and the neighboring area of Mahalisburg. But so, no, there's some energy there in Cape Town. I had to figure out and see what it is. Ethereal Synchronicity says, you just did it again. I shared the thought of how being seen and cool with how you pronounce my name. Thank you. I will look it up in the dictionary. Just sometimes, Red Horse says, hello from Wales. Your chats help keep me sane. Oh, and thank you, John Philip Stevenson. I am happy that, my truth resonates with you. I just think that that's what needs to happen. I think if more people were to simply be themselves, we would have a better planet. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some moments where astrology has literally helped me help a person save their life. Like, at least there are two or three cases where, I said, hey, you better watch out now. And they got themselves checked and they nipped themselves in the bud, stage one cancer, stuff like that. It helps with stuff like that. But it's not your end all be all. It really isn't. So the more people come together in this vibe of being, and for me, that is always a heart centered practice. The more people come together in this vibe, the better the world is going to be. The better the world is going to be. That's as easy as I can say it. And I know there's so many of you, myself included, who have spent years learning shit. And to have it all boiled down, there's a part of you going, have I just been wasting my time? But that's part of it, right? I know sometimes you only know if you can you only know if you know something, and if you're really in something, that you can actually look at it and go, is this really for me, or is it time to let it go? Jackie says you love it. It's a beautiful place. The coast is amazing. Eastern Cape too. Sounds good. I want to go check out Table Mountains. I like the idea of those mountains. John Phillips says, last night a DJ saved my life, as the song says. Fair enough. Fair enough. But yeah, that's one of those things. That's one of those things. Grace says, yeah, just being present. I carry around a tea set. I like it. I love tea sets. I love teacups. I love tea sets. I love teapots. Because my life is still in transition, I have not yet bought my teapot. When I feel like I am where I want to be for a reasonable period of years, I shall buy myself a teapot. And it shall be a pretty teapot, because I like pretty teapots. But anyway, let me read what Grace is reading. Yeah, just being present. I carry around a tea set. My auntie makes me promise not to make it performative like type A people for this quotidian practice of gathering, and love just pouring tea for elders and friends. Hope I get to pour for you too, Dr. B. Don't think I'll be sticking around here in Turtle Island anyways. Ha ha ha. John Phillips says tea opens a portal. Probably. There is something about Earl Grey that is um, particularly good. I just find that no matter what state of life or wherever I am, I find I can always find deep healing with tea, especially Earl Grey. It's probably because it's got bergamot, and bergamot is one of those things that have uplifting properties. Earl Grey is my jam, or my tea, I should say. Jackie says, I make a tea set in my school out of pebbling technique out of clay was my final piece. That is very cool. That is something I actually am looking forward to this year. Flex Supreme says, what tea do you recommend? Earl Grey. Hands down, Earl Grey. But different folks, different strokes. Sheena Max says, Earl Grey and Lady Grey are my two favorites. Fair enough, fair enough. It's a sign of taste, lady. It's a sign of taste. Other things that I am, Malik says, thank you so much, Sarah Christus. You're most welcome. Gambi says, blessings, Dr. Sweetie. Yes, Earl Grey is what's happening. Yeah. Oh, I knew it. I knew it. This is an Earl Grey community. I love it. Yeah. Okay. My brother would call it lame. My brother would call this lame, but he's my brother. That's the kind of stuff he says. He teases me. Believe me, he's the only one with the guts too. Barnett says, I made a live just in time for tea. Oh, yes, you did. Yes, you did. But, going back to the larger theme, one of the things, we've got an Earl Grey flow now. We've got an Earl Grey flow. I like it. One of the themes that I want to do this year, wait, I got to read this comment. Malik says, lavender tea. Sheena says, Jean-Luc Picard opened that door to me. A good London fog, pretty much soul comfort in a cup. God, I love Jean-Luc Picard. Anyway, so. Oh, Zen Seal says, I'm yet to try jasmine tea. Think I'll get some just to see. Heard it was really good. Love Earl Grey too. It's good. It's got a different property, but it's good. So one of the things that I want to do this year, I mean, last year, despite it being literally financially, health wise, emotionally, relationshipally. I know that's not a word, but it fits. It was devastating last year. So what I want to do this year is I want to slowly get back into that space of just being and healing by being, which is a thing. So the tea comments are continuing, by the way. That is nice. So one of those things I'm going to be focusing more on is my art, because I kind of go nuts when I start painting. That's I know when I paint, it is magic. I know that. So I know. So it's one of the reasons why I'm very restrained with it, because yeah, stuff happens when I paint. But good stuff, but still. So I'm going to be doing more painting, and I hopefully will have more room for good teas, which is an excellent thing. Grace sent me some lovely teas from Taiwan. Thank you so much. Um, and yeah, it's just, back to that space. Back to that space. Vernie says, I missed the first part. Did you discuss the upcoming full moon energies? No, I discussed why astrology can sometimes be shit for your spiritual journey. If it comes up, I'll talk about the full moon stuff. Barnett says, did you get a chance to get larger canvases yet? I do. I do. I have one right here. So I'm going to be doing something with it. I have a theme in mind. So I've been taking photographs of my dear model, who is, of course, baby. She's the great model. So is a cousin. And hopefully, I'm going to go and work on something cool. Jane Lane says, I've started to use milk in my tea. What else is going to change in my life? No idea, honey. No idea. Violet says, yay, yay. Woo! So, just do stuff that makes you come home to spirit, right? For some people, it's going to be tea, painting, babies, baby cats, babies. For other people, it's going to be meditation. Fine, that works. As long as you don't use it to escape, you're okay. For some people, it's going to be sleeping. Yes, sleeping is super healing. I know that someone actually managed to take exception to the idea that I found so much solace in just looking at my little niece sleep, who's a cat baby, of course. And someone managed to get offended by that, but whatever. But watching little ones sleep sweetly, peacefully, that's something that heals your soul. And that's really what we need right now. That's really what we need. For Batwoman, it's crystals. Everyone finds something different. Sheena says, art, gardening is my big one this year. Ordered a bunch of trees for May. That sounds good. That's another very healing thing that you can do. And when you do all of these things in your life, I'm not going to say it's going to fix everything. And just as I said that, Barnett says, thank you for snapping mindsets out of astrology as the end all be all problem solver. You are welcome. I've never seen it that way. And honestly, astrology has given me very important clues to help me figure things out. But the real difference has always been looking at my emotions and looking at what are the larger energies behind the situation. It can point you in the right direction, but it doesn't solve your problem. You can read about Jupiter and Pisces in 10,000 books, but unless you actually sit there and do something that lets you experience spirit, doesn't really do much. Maybe you feel great about reading those books, but have you learned anything? That's a different question. Grace says, somehow I feel you'd be great at Chinese calligraphy, Doc B. I was actually told this. When I was growing up, Malaysia was not exactly that race friendly, right? People are changing now, but there are some people with those old attitudes. But I did learn little bit of Mandarin when I was about 9 years old. I was doing all the calligraphy strokes and whatnot. And the teacher hated the fact that my calligraphy was better than the Chinese students. He just was like, he didn't show it so overtly, but you could tell he was like, why is this person writing better? Because I just, it was in a flow. As I like saying, I was probably a Taoist at some point. I get these concepts real fast, real easy. So it's just like it's probably in there somewhere. But I actually have thought about looking at Chinese calligraphy and so on and so forth, because there's something very relaxing about it, very relaxing, and I'm sure there is a deeper core in it. Ethereal says, my mother was into basic astro, Earl Grey tree, and Jean-Luc Picard. Funny to see how much we all share. Exactly. Grace says, haha, of course, because your character shows up in our strokes. Ah, okay, that makes sense. I didn't know that. I did not know that. That makes sense. That makes sense. Um, Jackie says, yes, I haven't touched clay since 2009, and my art, yes, I have a yearning for it, and I'm so arty. Do it. With Jupiter and Pisces, do it. Zen says, but I need to escape. No, I'll try to stay present and handle things the right way. Okay, you bring a very good point. This is why I like letting people direct the conversation. I remember when I started this format, there was someone who was so angry with me because I was talking, because they wanted their voice to be heard, and that's not what it's not what it's about. It's about people flowing and sometimes pointing us into unexpected areas of discussion, sometimes reaffirming, and it's hard to hold this flow. It's very hard, but sometimes I always value what all of you say because it shows me what direction people are thinking. Zen says, okay, I'll try to stay present and handle things right now. This is a good point. This is where astrology can help. So as you know, Terius, the hunter stalker, whom I do not like. I mean, mind you, I've learned a lot, as always, through deeply transformative, despairing situations, but that doesn't mean I have to like it. That fellow is in Virgo. The with the with the energies of early February, we're actually going to be seeing Jupiter opposite Sirius. So don't be too eager to fix things. That's actually something I talk about in my interview with my friend on her channel, Diary of a Ditch Witch. She wanted me to do predictions for the year. I was like, no, we just talk about 6 minutes of the predictions for 2022, and that's it. And this is one of the things I say. Don't be too eager to fix things. Don't be too eager to make things right. I know there's a very important need to heal the planet, but you cannot heal anything when you do not accept where you are now. So be present, yes, but do things that actually just make you feel okay, be you. Because if you are too focused on trying to be something else, whether it's a better version of you or whether it's some transcendent version of you, you're still escaping. I don't mean just you, Zen. I mean everybody. I have a lot of alignments in Virgo, so this also applies to me as well. One of the only things I have found that have actually helped me heal my relationship with my life and transform into a better person is realize that you don't always need to fix things, you don't always need to fix things. You're not something broken that needs to be patched up. You're just a person having an experience, doing a thing, and just allowing yourself to get on with life and just being is one of the most important things you can do, to be honest. And the thing is, the more you go into that flow, the more you will know where to go. That's the great hidden secret. Seriously, if this was older times and I was sitting in a cave on a mountain top or something, and I had the student who walked 10,000 miles to come and see me, and he's like, "Great teacher, what do you say?" Please sit with the flow. You will know where to go. Fellow would have probably wanted to murder me. I wouldn't be surprised if that has happened, but that's honestly it. Like people want to make spirituality, astrology seem also sexy and mysterious, but it really comes down, that's the basics. That's the basics. And if you get that, you don't really need a lot of external stuff, with very few exceptions. There are some people who are legitimately, as I have been, oppressed by very external things that require different solutions, but you won't find that answer in astrology either. Let's see. Grace says there's such a difference between discipline of art, delightfully consented to, and disciplined into art, looking at tiger parents. Understood. Barnett says, question, what planetary configuration signified the started of the age of Aquarius? Honestly, I don't think it's so much a planetary alignment in the way we normally think about it, but I think the harmonic convergence in the 80s was probably a big event. That's probably one of the big things. Barnett says, we're excitedly waiting your book on Therius. That is something I will do because that is something that can add real information. But I have to be very, very careful about it, because Therius is one of those concepts which, if a person latches onto it, they can manifest a lot of pain for themselves that they don't need. So I'm trying to do it in a way that is compassionate, but at the same time gives a person the courage to face what they are afraid of. Because, it's not always an external thing that we need to look at. Very often, what we are afraid of is ourselves. And sometimes there's good reason for it. I mean, I also do find that the rise of covert predation, the rise of the vulnerable narcissist as a type of narcissist who uses vulnerability to hook you in rather than grandiosity, these are things that make it even harder for people to see themselves, because they assume that if they are feeling trauma, they must be the victim. So, I have to be very careful in writing this, because there's a lot of scope for that concept to be abused. Would it have been easy for me to just write some straight shot thing? Yeah, of course, sure. I used to be the kind of person who'd write 10,000 words for a chapter every night. But it's not good to just put that knowledge out there without framing it in the right way. So that's what I'm working on. Malik says, thank you so much. You're most welcome. Barnett thanks Sheena for noting these quotes. She does a really good job of that. Deborah says, merci. Amma says, my flow comes through creating, painting, sculpture, jewelry, sewing, drawing, etc. Those are excellent things to flow through, you know? Those are wonderful things to do. Wonderful, wonderful things. Barnett says, ooh, the vulnerable narcissist. Great title for a song. Please feel free to write one. Zen still says, I see. I'm learning to accept things and have begun appreciating the little things like just being and listening to old album CDs. That's great. You want to find a path of healing this year? Keep doing that. Because the more people are propelled into problematizing themselves, you need this cause and this technique and this concept and this qualification and this that in order for you to learn how to be a person and understand yourself. The more you fall into that trap, the harder you are going to fall. And you'll eventually have to get up again, but might as well not go into all of that BS and just start doing. It's okay if your mind doesn't get it, you know? And I know the Sagittarians and the Aquarians are looking at this going, but it is okay if you don't understand it. I often joke with my brother, like when he says something, right? And I'll be like, we create worlds together. Like we're doing this project on this children's story that we're working on. And one of the lines that, something comes up, oh, okay, why does this character do this? And I might go, nobody needs to know. And he laughs. And the truth is, sometimes you don't need to know the ins and outs of a situation to fix it. Sometimes you just need to focus on the things that actually fix it, because when you fix it too much on the mechanics, sometimes it just gets you fixated on the mechanics. One of the books that really helped me transform my relationship to spirituality, and I know there are people who devour books all over the place, and then there's me, who I respect the fact that people have taken the time to read and provide wisdom, but I also know my instincts will never lead me to things that I do not need. So when I do read books, I disagree with so much of what is written. I'll be scrawled all over the book. And then there'll be a few, parts of things that I actually might enjoy. So I would say it's better this year and in general to focus less on the problem and focus more on your immediate beingness, your immediate presence. And to not make that a self-centered thing either, because a lot of the times, especially in the way the self-care movement is being co-opted, increasingly I should say, a lot of the times when we talk about being present, it becomes another excuse to narcissistic excess. Just allow yourself to be in the moment and realize that you are, as a self, exist because of your interaction with everything that is around you. Who you are in the here and now is part of a very long process of evolution through so much of interaction. So you don't need to make being present this very exclusive thing. Just who you are when you are with your child is not the same as who you are when you are with your partner. Who you are when you are talking to your boss is not the same as who you are when you're talking to a member of your cohort. So, and you can't also say that only when you are by yourself are you truly yourself, because honestly, are you truly ever alone? So just be present and don't make it a big thing that you have to analyze yourself to the point of death. Malik Young says, I'm Cancer, Sun, and Mercury. Any advice on truly connecting and embracing my emotions? Try music. I'm a Cancer rising, and that was one of the things that really cracked it for me. I was trying to go to a homeopath who, honestly, the homeopathy itself was not so effective for me, but the little comments that the homeopath gave here and then, just as a person, was actually a lot more useful. And I guess talking with her as a person was actually more important than the craft. Not to say that there's anything bad with it. I have dabbled with it myself. But I remember that she was trying to get me to cry because at that point I had not really cried much. So I think she was working with Staphysagria and it just didn't work. So then I thought about it and I'm like, okay, that's what you want to do. So I just went and looked at, I heard a Diana Ross song, which is When We Hold On Together. Or is it If We Hold On? I think it's If We Hold On Together, from the movie Land Before Time. And because it's all about a baby whose mommy has died, I I instantly weep. That is one of those songs that instantly gets to me because it also taps into a very old and a very calm memory that I've carried through many lifetimes. So, that's for me, music was one of those things that really opened the door. And you can always tell what mood I'm in by what music I'm listening to. So that's something I would recommend. Zen Steel says, thank you, most welcome. Sheena says, oh, I love that. A tool belt full of new and exciting tools is worthless if you're not grabbing them when you need to fix the door. Michi says, how did you know? It's the job. Sheena says, too much information is such a distraction. I refused to get numbers when I was in labor because I know how my mind would latch onto how progress was going. Being in the flow was a blessing. Exactly. I find that the more you focus on the tools, and it's useful to have a tool. I'm not saying don't use tools, but the experience is more important than the tool. And astrology, going back to the beginning of this conversation, is just a tool. That's all it is. It's a tool. It's not your end all be all. It's just a way to get there. And for some people it works, and for some people it doesn't. That's all. You know. Diane Robinson says, "Hi sis, you're a wonderful person." Thank you very much, Diane. And it's very lovely to hear affirmations from the community, and it's very much appreciated. Malik says, "Thank you so much. I've noticed my trauma has really been pushing me away from living and spilling my true emotions. Music, definitely, it helps. I tend to just listen to stuff from the '60s because that seems to work for me." But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. And hopefully, you've got the information that you needed. And those of you who are wondering what the heck we're talking about, go back to the beginning where I talk about it in a nutshell. The rest is community discussion, explicating the different versions of this and different dimensions of this. But yeah, that's about it. Take care. Very many blessings. Sending love to all of you. Go be. Don't make a song and dance about it. Just enjoy being beingness, which is a thing. Barnett says, have a lovely day, good doctor. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day, night, evening, wherever you are. Lots of hugs, lots of blessings, and ciao ciao for now. Bye.